A fatal four-way was all it took for Trick Williams to topple, and the era of Whoop That is on pause for now, at least. We're going to talk about it in just a second on today's episode of WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Always joined by my trios team, the Real House of Black Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeet. Yeah. Yeet. Yeah. And of course, the omnipresent professor that is Gerard Bonner. What a weekend it was for the WWE. Of course, we had Money in the Bank and NXT Heatwave. I almost don't know where to start, so let's just do it in chronological order. Let's go with Money in the Bank. Just in general, a great PLE in general. I'm going to start. I usually start with asking these guys their opinions on the matches or the show, but you know what? I'm going to start with my own for a change. It was phenomenal. The women's match, for me, probably the best women's ladder match I've ever seen in my life.
Facts.
And it wasn't just down to what happened in the ring or the spots, should I say. It was more the details, the psychology, the stories that were being told, all of that, the styles of the ladies. Like, looking at the women that were in the match, at no point did I think, oh, this is going to be amazing because so-and-so style match is so-and-so style. But when it started, when the match was going on, I was like, whoever put this match together, whoever put these 6 women together needs an award, because that was absolute perfection in my eyes. As best as you're going to get it. Chelsea Green, just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Seeing Tiff win, so glad it was Tiff. It was either, for me, her or Chelsea that had to win it. Naomi was a third choice. But everyone performed. Lyra Valkyria looked like a star even from when she came out. She looked ready. Everyone just performed amazingly. But let me stop talking because I'll carry on for the rest of the show. Gerard, give me your synopsis of just Money in the Bank in general, and also one, apart from the ladies' match, just any other moments that kind of stood out for you from that PLE.
Sure, it was a fantastic PLE, like start to finish. They nailed it this weekend, and it just reminds me of the beauty of the Triple H era. This is all that we loved in the black and gold era of NXT, and now we're getting it on the main roster. And for whatever we thought it could be, it's that much better. I mean, the stories that are being told. Let's just consider this. It's the first PLE. All year that did not have Bianca Belair.
Interesting.
First PLE with no Bianca Belair all year long, and we're still like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
There's only one PLE outside of this one this year that didn't have Jade Cargill, and that was Elimination Chamber. And we went, hey, this is still great. So it says to me that they're building something so significant in WWE that several of the key players can be missing, and we still love the show. That's what they gave us. This was absolutely phenomenal. The women's ladder match, I totally agree with you. Looking on paper, nobody got what they expected. Like on paper, you're like, okay, this is going to be a cool match. And we probably asked ourselves, why is it so late in the card? But then when they got into it, it was almost like they felt, that energy of when you're killing it and you're killing it. No, I'm going to top you. No, I'm going to top you. No, I'm going to top you. And it was just like, I've never seen women do this in a ladder match before. It was amazing. Stars built all around. I'm going to save the obvious conversation because I know we're going to have it, so I won't mention that specifically. But what I will say is, just thinking this through, it was well put together. Probably my only change would have been I would have had the world title match as the main event, as opposed to the 6-man tag match.
Right.
I fully thought that the world title match was going to be the main event. That's probably the only thing I would change. So since I have to say something specific, Jacob Fatu is a problem. He's everything we thought he was going to be, and then some. And he's in the best shape of his career. That is scary, given all that we've seen him do. Yeah, that's scary. We got a problem in WWE, and it's looking real good.
Before I ask Mex his opinion, something that you said early on in your comments, Gerard, about seeing a PLE without certain stars and you were still getting something major enough. It reminded me of something that Chad Gable said in an interview that Mex had with Chad Gable, where he said that Triple H has mentioned to so many of the stars that everyone's going to get a chance. Everyone's going to get, whether it's just 2 minutes on the show, whether it's a run feud, whatever it is, everyone's going to get a chance. And I think this is what happens when you put the faces on TV.
Yes.
Whether in the main, whether they're in the main event, whether they're in the main storyline, it doesn't actually matter. As long as people see the faces enough time on a regular basis, consistently, and then they're thrown into either a big match or a big feud eventually, you don't have to work too hard to sell that star. I mean, people recognize them and they're like, yep, I'm here for it. And then and everyone gets to be excited and show what they can do as well. Yeah. So, it like you said, it's testament to the Triple H era. Next, your thoughts, and you can mention that specific thing that we will talk about.
I'm not even sure I'm on the same wavelength as to what that is, but I'll be ready when we get there.
You'll be ready, mate.
But just to kind of hop off the current conversation, what's that thing that Bianca Belair says? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right. And this is the position that Triple H is putting a lot of these wrestlers in right now. We saw Carmelo Hayes in the men's Money in the Bank match have a nice little account for himself, a few great spots here and there. When you peel it back and think about it, Carmelo Hayes deserves to be in there just because his day one on the show, he wrestled the world champion.
Yeah,
he lost, but he wrestled the world champion. So it's not inconceivable. And he qualified by pinning Randy Orton, the 14-time world champion, right? And if we think about it, bar maybe some stuff with Grayson Waller and them lot, bar him qualifying, in that particular match, he's just been on TV antagonizing people, cutting small promos backstage here and there. These 2 minutes, but maximizing the minutes, like you say. So, and I really do like, I thought I mentioned this, the fact that these kind of these PLE become like weekenders. So it's like conjoined with the SmackDown. So the SmackDown is even feeling a certain kind of prestige. We're getting title changes like on before Money in the Bank. Because it's like we can't get everyone on this card for the PLE, but so let's make SmackDown also feel big as well for the crowd. Most people, might not be able to do both days, but let's make the SmackDown that they can attend that might be more affordable, good as well, sort of thing. So Triple H is definitely, I agree, kind of giving everyone something to live up to. As for Money in the Bank itself, I thought it was a good pay-per-view. I still think long term, what they should do is return the Money in the Bank to WrestleMania, put the women's ladder match on one night, put the men's on the other. I think that as a pay-per-view, it's still one of these ones that it's all around just these two matches in terms of the branding and everything. And we've moved away from it largely. So I think this one should follow suit, and it makes Mania feel special as well when you win that kind of opportunity at Mania. I thought the women's ladder match was match of the night by a country mile. I think that maybe because women in ladder matches, the Money in the Bank given to women as well is a not new concept, but a recent-ish concept, as well as women's Royal Rumble. The women are knocking it out of the park with all of this stuff. And maybe it's a thing with the men, like, we've had so many of these over the years, they find it hard to find new ways of doing it. With the women as well, we obviously always see women as more like dainty. So it's like when they're doing the crazy stuff that the men do, it's like, oh my god, like don't do that sort of thing.
Right.
Like it's
True.
it feels like it's more risk sort of thing. So like Io Sky's Michinoku driver, what was ridiculous? Like, are we? Is this an indie or what? Have you forgotten where you work? Like, it's absolutely crazy. And funny enough, I saw Dijak on an interview speaking to SP3 from True Hill Heat the other day, talking about how they have to get things cleared like that. I don't believe for a second that WWE would have cleared Io Sky to do a Michinoku driver to Zoe Stark onto a ladder.
No way.
Like Dijak said that, you know, sometimes, you know, people just go into business for themselves. they'll give you a slap on the wrist sort of thing, especially in this current regime. It's like, come on, don't do that because of things like insurances and, you know, we have to get the right clearance if you're going to do something like that and be ready if there is an aftermath from whatever happens. So, but yeah, I can't imagine that was ever cleared. Like they must have just went for that. But yeah, I think that was a fantastic match. The women are just setting the bar every single time. As for our stars, Naomi had some really strong spots in that. It's kind of all opened up a conversation that I did see earlier today on the timeline around, well, Naomi being a darker skinned woman, why is she not getting opportunities? Why is she not winning? Why is she not doing anything? Which I thought was okay. I'm going to watch from afar and I watch you lot have this conversation. It didn't develop into much, but I think it's something that people are kind of noticing. And I will say it wasn't us, as in our people, that were having this conversation either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why I thought, let me sit back and see how this turns out. But yeah, I think up and down, they done a really good show. I agree that Damian Priest, Seth Rollins should have been the main event. Other than that, I think it was really good.
You mentioned it just at the end, but not the moment itself. But we're going to talk about it very quickly.
We're saving it. We want this to work right.
Fair enough. I get it. You're with me on this. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. The whole wrestling community we're talking about it over the weekend. Still even spilling into today. I'm seeing new comments and new, videos and whatnot. But this whole talk of the Money in the Bank briefcase being wasted. It's that whole phrase was spread like wildfire over the weekend. And of course, we saw Drew McIntyre pick up the briefcase. He kind of, he told us on Raw and SmackDown, the days leading up to Money in the Bank, that if he wins, he's going to cash in on the night and become world champion and all the rest of it. So he did what he said he was going to do. Won the Money in the Bank, got involved in the World Championship match. But I'll say this, the second his music hit, and it wasn't the end of the match with someone lying prostrate on the canvas, I knew it wasn't going to be successful. I just knew. And I knew CM Punk would have something to do as well. Lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. CM Punk gets involved. Cost him the briefcase. Damian Priest, of course, retains the title. But then the little caveat, the little added extra is now that Seth Rollins is upset with CM Punk. Mex, do you think that the Money in the Bank briefcase was wasted?
Not at all. Not on this occasion. And I will say I was of this notion a couple weeks back when it was like Drew's going to enter this. I said, don't do this because it's going to be wasted. Let's look at the bigger picture. Like, there are so many points like that they are going to crown the next person. Gunther is already waiting. Yeah, that's the number one contender there. 4 months after Gunther at SummerSlam, we've got a Royal Rumble. That's another number one contender there. Following Royal Rumble, if they do King of the Ring again in the same fashion, that will be another number one contender. Money in the Bank 2 months later, another number one. Like,
right.
They clearly have right now the idea of where they're going with the world titles. That's why they could easily discard it. If we put this briefcase on a Carmelo, Andrade, who else was in that match? LA Knight, Jey Uso, and all of these guys failed to cash it in. Their stock drops, and it will be harder for them to save themselves from that plummet rather than Drew McIntyre and where Drew McIntyre is right now, sort of thing. Drew lost absolutely nothing failing this cash in. Like when people start compiling lists of the biggest failures to cash in, Drew shouldn't even appear on this list. Like he shouldn't even be there, because this wasn't a failure, especially on his part. We know the story that they're telling, and this is Triple H almost saying like, I think this is a larger conversation. There's Triple H saying, I'm not sure if I need this. If me personally, I don't know if I need this briefcase to tell stories. This was obviously a Jericho idea. This was Vince saying, okay, yeah, sounds good, looks good. We could probably make merch off a briefcase. And at the same time, it provides a moment, which WWE love. Like Vince probably needed this to tell long-term stories, especially around the title and crowning new people. Does Triple H need this with his track records? I don't think so. And yeah, I think we could see with Damian last year, it was like, okay, all right, I'll give it to Damian, but then so much happened. So many guys started coming into the picture, especially around the back of 2023 into the top of this year. It's like, okay, we'll have to let Damian win it, but you know, there's another plan in place. And this year, I just think Triple H turned around and said, I don't need this. I don't need this. Like Drew can win it. We'll get it off him straight away. That's it, done for the year for the men. And then we'll crack on and tell the story that we were always going to tell anyway.
Yeah. Gerard, do you think that this one has worked out how it should have, or do you feel that someone else probably should have won that briefcase?
You know, I know there was a lot of thought about potentially Jey Uso winning it. And I know that there are a lot of ways we could go with this. There's a story that could have been told with almost anyone that won it. The bigger question is, what is the better story? And so Jey Uso potentially winning it, that's cool. You know, the question though is, how will it raise his stock? And he's already super popular. People already, they've been calling him main event Jey Uso for 4 years now. You know, on top of that, it's like he's living up to it. He has one of the greatest crowd responses of anybody. He doesn't need it. I think what we learned Saturday night is that Money in the Bank can be used multiple ways. It can be used to take a star and build them and allow us to see them from a transition from a mid-card space to a world title space. It also can be used for a main event level star. Let's not forget that Brock Lesnar won Money in the Bank a couple of years ago. John Cena is a previous Money in the Bank winner. Randy Orton is a Money in the Bank winner. And none of them won it in the early stages of their career. They won it when they were bona fide, pick your choice, stars, right? That's what they did. So there's that. To me, the bigger story is, and I got to shout out Meredith Bell because she mentioned this, and when she said it, I was like, this adds perfect credence, and this is the right show to say it. She said in one of her stories that CM Punk is the Kendrick Lamar of WWE. And when you think about this is 100% Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And it happened in Toronto as well.
Interesting.
Absolutely. This makes perfect sense. Think about how Kendrick Lamar will not take his foot off the neck of Drake. He will not. Drake stopped putting songs out. He was like, okay, I'm going to give you a second. Then I'm going to do a whole Juneteenth concert about you. And I'm going to do the song 5 or 6 times just to drive home the point. And if that wasn't enough, he said, I've got a whole video I'm going to do on it. You are not going to forget this. And CM Punk says, hey, you are not going to be champion as long as I'm around. Every chance I get to screw you, I will. And so if CM Punk screws him out of the Money in the Bank ladder match, that's one thing. But screwing him when he cashes in, that's a whole nother level. That's very much Kendrick Lamar is saying, hey, Drew, you're not like us.
You're
not.
And as I said, you know,
bop. Yeah, you know. You know. Why you lost in the key of A minor? I just want to be clear. Drew. This is how this goes. That's how it goes.
And we get the added piece to this whole story as well, with Seth Rollins losing out, obviously losing his chance, not getting a chance to face Damian Priest again. Obviously, we've now seen that Priest is kind of like, as soon as I beat Gunther, you've got a chance if I'm still champion, whatever. But at the same time, he still lost his chance for no fault of his own. CM Punk getting in his business. And for me, straight away, I'm seeing we're getting a triple threat at SummerSlam, surely, because we should have. It was always expected to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at Mania. CM Punk got injured. Obviously, we've seen how great the story has been with Drew and Punk. Punk's still injured. For me, I'm thinking this is a way to kind of bring all of that together. So you've got Rollins, Drew, and still not 100% Punk. And I think it's just a safer option for Punk. And again, like I said, it brings everything else together. And we get the magic of the promo that those three had a few months ago in a match. Mm-hmm. And what we can get up until that match is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So that's what I'm expecting to see. I don't see a world where it's CM Punk versus just one of those guys at SummerSlam.
I think that's I could see it, but I could also see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And I think if the triple threat, that's the first thing that came to my mind, funny enough as well. If it's a triple threat, it's merely just to take the weight of the match off Punk. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily throw him into like a 20-minute singles match as his first go back sort of thing. I think maybe, obviously, we know we're getting this Bad Blood pay-per-view now in October in Atlanta. That could be something to then get CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, as that's the real kind of Bad Blood at this point anyway. Right. That could be like the headline kind of match to go along with the name of the pay-per-view.
Very true. Very true. In terms of how we get to that, Gerard, do you still see there being a singles match for Punk? And then we get to Bad Blood. Do you see how else do you see it?
Yeah, I think, there's an interesting callback that can happen at Bad Blood. Bad Blood was where the Hell in a Cell match originated with The Undertaker and HBK. And so I think you get Punk and McIntyre to have a match, and it ends up being a no contest because they just fight all over the place. And we need a place to resolve this. You do it at Bad Blood. It just makes all the sense. That's why I can see a match between the two of them happening, but it's utter chaos. Nothing gets resolved. Like a bunch of people get hurt in the process. It's maddening. And this is the only structure that can contain them at Bad Blood. So it makes sense to me. And shout out to CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Triple H for the way this story has been told for a guy who has only wrestled one match since he's been back in WWE, and that was the Royal Rumble. I've never seen a feud carried on with someone who is injured in such an amazing way. This is incredible to me. Incredible.
Yeah. To that point, I saw people, a platform doing like their halfway through the point of the year, Wrestler of the Year kind of rankings. Mm-hmm. And CM Punk was appearing in many lists. Like Gerard just said, he's just had one match that he was involved in. And it's not even like a match. It's a Royal Rumble.
It's a multi-person match, of course.
And they've kept him relevant. They've kept him on TV. He's been doing what CM Punk does best.
Yes.
And it proves every time when we say it, wrestling isn't enough. Like all of these matches and star ratings, it clearly means nothing if a man can have 5-10 minutes in the Royal Rumble, and that's all he does all year in terms of activity in ring and just cuts promos, and he's appearing on many people's Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah,
and there should be no argument to it either, because at the end of the day, wrestling's about connecting with the audience, being relevant, and he's done exactly that by not being in the ring. And there's no argument for it. There's no argument for it. If he qualified for the Jet Power 10, I'm sure he'd be number one at some point.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it would have happened. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. Talking about people becoming stars, being relevant. This man, we're probably going to end up talking about this man every week for the next, I don't know how long. But Obafemi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask the question. He's done it. He's beaten the greatest North American champion of all time in Wesley. Done it in such dominant fashion. Yes, Wesley bought a fight as well, but Obafemi is Obafemi. I'm gonna leave it open to whoever wants to come in first. But can we now actually say that Obafemi is the greatest North American champion of all time? Is it too early? Yeah.
I think it's still too early.
Okay.
Only because, you know, what made Wesley the greatest North American champion of all time was the length of the reign and the caliber of matches and number of defenses and all of that type of thing. So I definitely don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. But I absolutely can say that Obafemi is one of one. Okay? The things that this man is able to do, it says to me, and really, this is one of the interesting themes of Heatwave, as there are multiple matches that reflect this moment, and that is the NIL program actually works. We'll get to another match specifically about NIL talent, but this man, they would not have found him on the indies because there's nobody on the indies like him. He is one of one. And to see what he's doing and what he's done in such a short time. And, you know, that match was incredible. It's indicative of what we've come to expect from NXT, whether it's the size differential, the ability of both of these guys to have an insane match like this, and just the physical things that Obafemi is able to do. And big guys aren't supposed to be able to wrestle that long. He's disproving and debunking all of these myths and theories. He's special. He's real special. And I don't know who is in NXT that could possibly even remotely come close to dealing with him. Dijak is gone, so I don't know. We ain't seen Odyssey Jones. He's been drafted twice and still haven't seen him. So I don't know who is the guy who can touch Obafemi. I don't know.
Mix.
I think one thing I'll definitely admit to at this point, when we first started seeing Obafemi and he cut through, became North American champion, I said, no, this guy is brilliant, but I was still holding back something. I just didn't feel like, you know, they must be protecting him from something, sort of thing, especially because of the amount of multi-man matches he was often having, which were a ton of fun to watch and everything. But why do you keep putting him in these multi-man matches?
Right.
So I can't say I was 100 there, like, but I was definitely on the way, and I love watching Obafemi do what he does in the ring. After this weekend, I am on board.
Yes,
I am on board. That is my Nigerian brother.
Yes.
Obafemi. That is him. Like, I'm going to shout his name from the mountaintops because what I saw, and granted, it was with Wesley, who is a terrific performer and doesn't get half the accolades he deserves from what he does in that ring.
Right.
Like, he was made to look by Wes's selling and just some of the sequences and stuff he put together. That, like, I think that's the F10 that he done. That he just basically launched.
Someone said Wesley.
F15. Like, honestly, some of the things he was doing, and more than just that, now it's the psychology coming along, the selling, just the little bits to just kind of show what I can't remember. Was it a meteora or something that Wes gave him, and he just kind of popped up out of it? Like,
yes,
right.
I said, no, this is real, like, Godzilla kind of behavior. Like, they've got something special. And you mentioned the NIL program, Gerard. I was speaking about this in the group chat and saying how ultimately, not everyone's gonna make it and stuff like that. And it's like,
No.
I felt like in our group chat when we were saying this, it's like, well, it's like any other sport, if you go for a trial, there's gonna be hundreds of people there. There may only be 2 people that they take that day.
Right.
And even if WWE or NXT take into the Performance Center 20 people, it will still only be, 1 or 2 odd people from that sort of thing. So if that person, like these Obafemis or a Kalani or someone like that, goes on to be, I don't want to say as high as John Cena, but even has like a Randy Orton-esque career sort of thing, it has paid off. It has paid dividends, and it doesn't matter how many other people they hired that failed, because you got your one sort of thing. And it's much easier to use this program to get that one than to cough out, a $1 million through to $3 million a year contract to someone that's ready made for now, but it doesn't necessarily secure the future of the company, even from a financial point of view. So the NIL program definitely works. If it gives you people like this, oh mate, go back to whatever college or university you found this guy. Even go back to Nigeria and go and see his bloodline and go and bring more of them. It's different. It's different level right now.
Yeah, for real. Speaking of this whole program, you've got to understand, and you mentioned that it happens in other sports as well. You've got to understand that WWE didn't think of this program and think to themselves, right, we're going to bring in 20 people a year and expect these, or hope that these 20 people all make it. It's not for that at all. The reason why there are so many, or the percentage is so low, is because that's the risk you have to take.
Yes.
Imagine if they only took on 5 people a year.
Right.
Probably none of them would make it. Then you'd have a problem. That's the reason why there is 10 to 20. I think they do, probably twice a year, or bring about 8 to 10 people each time. You know what I mean? That's probably why they do it. That's exactly why they do it. So to see a guy like an Oba, exactly that. To see an Obafemi, to see a Kalani, Sol Ruka, to get to the place where you mentioned John Cena or possibly a Randy Orton-esque, but we see it already in Bianca Belair.
Absolutely.
Like that alone is the proof. You don't need anything else, and that's one person. You know what I mean? So again, like you said, Max, it's a numbers game, and they know what they're doing now, and they've seen that it works. And they're gonna go strong with this from now. Gerard, you mentioned there probably is no one in NXT that can beat Obafemi right now. Who's to say that person has to come from NXT?
Precisely. And I still don't know if they can beat him.
Exactly. That's the interesting part, because we've seen the conversation in the week. Obafemi had an interview with the A Show, I believe it is, on R&D radio, and was asked the question, with all this NXT TNA thing going on, who would he want to face? And he mentioned Moose. He mentioned AJ Francis as well. I'm making sure I'm saying that, because AJ Francis was a little upset that I didn't mention his name when I redid the quote. So I'm just mentioning his name as well.
Yes.
But he elaborated more so on Moose, and obviously said, if you want to take out the main man, or if you want to take over something, you have to take out the main man. And of course, Moose is the current TNA World Champion. Gerard, how would you feel if we got this match? Like, not even got to the match, but even just an indication on TV, whether it be TNA, NXT, that this match was about to happen. How would you feel seeing those two, both Nigerians? Makes you smiling, brother. Both Nigerians in such a massive clash.
The indication would be incredible. The execution is what makes me nervous, because in my head, I think to myself, there's absolutely no way that TNA would let its world champion go down to a mid-card champion in NXT. There's no way. So, that's like sending Damian Priest or Cody Rhodes to any other organization and expecting them. It's like sending them to AEW and expecting them to lose to Jack Perry, the TNT champion, right? Like we go, there's no way, And even if they were matched up with Will Ospreay as the international champion, you still go, it's the world champion,
right?
Like that could be problematic. So that's the piece that makes me nervous. Now, if this happens after Slammiversary and Moose has lost the world championship at Slammiversary, now we're cooking. So for this to happen and for us to feel like there's a chance that either of them could win, Moose can't be world champion. That's the linchpin for this. As long as Moose is the world champion, this isn't going to work. If Moose is not the world champion and we do this match, okay, there's the possibility that Oba could win, or I could better believe that Moose could win. But if he's the world champion coming in, there's no way TNA is going to let their world champion lose to a mid-card champion anywhere else. So that's my only thing. If this happens again after July 20th, which is possible, because Moose has got this 6-man match that's happening at Slammiversary, there's enough factors in there where Moose could lose it, and that's only a couple of weeks away. So if we're there, oh yeah, sign me up.
Mex, is there a world though where Moose could beat Obafemi? So Moose still as TNA World Champion beats Obafemi, who is the North American champion, and walks around with the TNA World Championship and the NXT North American Championship.
Boy. I mean, it could happen, but that is the kind of, I guess, commitment to the partnership as fans we're trying to see.
Right.
It's almost like I dare you to do that. Let's see, sort of thing. So listen, it would be bloody brilliant for Moose. It would be great for TNA. How NXT would then kind of, pick up Obafemi from that point would be very interesting, because that would be a major. Not only has he lost this title, he's beaten everyone he's lost it outside of the company, sort of thing. It would be something, maybe a short-term thing where then Obafemi wins it back from Moose. But yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I think it's definitely, like Gerard was saying, it's going to take one of them to lose their title before we get the match. So, losing comes a lot more easier once that happens.
Very true, very true. Heading our way a little bit back to Heatwave, we saw another match that I don't know if it was surprising of how good it was. I don't know if it was surprising, but I think a lot of things that they did was surprising, of course. And I'm talking about the Women's North American Championship match between Sol Ruka and the champion Kalani Jordan. It's very interesting to see that as they did their opening sequence, something was running from my head. I'm like, have I seen this before? Have I seen this before? And lo and behold, the man who I saw do this before chimed in the week on X. The man known as Ricochet, of course, chimed in and said, this looks very similar to what me and Will Ospreay did back in New Japan. And, it astounds me. It amazes me. For years and years and years, I've always wondered why I don't get to see that type of sequence between women often. Sometimes I think to myself, why is it that the women are not doing stuff like this, or we don't see it often and all the rest of it? To see two ladies who have never wrestled, 3 years ago, I think it's 2 years ago, pull off that type of thing so cleanly, so sharply, pull off some of the things that they did in the match. Yes, they're both coming from gymnastic backgrounds, but at the same time, to merge that with, a combat style, to engage with the fans in the way that they do, and all the rest of it was just phenomenal to see. Gerard, how did you feel sitting watching that match? And what was your thoughts on the outcome?
So, two things. One, as I'm watching it, I had the exact same feeling like I've seen this before, but it feels different. And I found myself saying, we just had our female version of Osprey and Ricochet before I ever realized that they had done the sequence over again. So there's that. I will kind of do a callback to something that actually happened earlier in the show, where Mex said that he wasn't really on the Obafemi train. I know Mex has been a huge advocate for Kalani Jordan, and I've been like, she's all right, you know, like she's
same.
She's, you know, I mean, she's all right. Do it like Lonnie. Okay, that's cool. Like, okay, catchphrase,
Cute.
nice, you know.
Cute.
Her to his him. Cute. I like
Cute.
it. This is the match that sold me.
Yeah.
This is the match that sold me on Kalani Jordan, because everybody knew how great Sol Ruka was. So Ruka has never had a dance partner like Kalani Jordan. And I don't know that coming into this match, I even realized it. It was just like, oh, these two friends, they're going to put on a nice match. This should be cute. But it was incredible. It was incredible. And this kind of just went along with the theme of the weekend of women blowing it out of the water, showing us literally what they can do. I'm actually giving thought to doing a full video on, we are past this women's evolution. We are at the revolution stage where they are literally saying, anything you can do, we can do better, because the women all weekend outshined the men all weekend long. And that match was incredible. I feel like Kalani winning was absolutely a win, but we all won from being able to see women put on that way. And I think one of the reasons we hadn't seen, to answer your earlier question, why we haven't seen women wrestle like this in this match or in the latter match is because, again, you have to hire the kinds of people that have the ability and desire to do that. In the previous regime of WWE, they were hiring models. You know, they were doing a diva search, their words, not mine. So when you're doing a diva search and searching for models, you're not looking for the athletic types that can do this. When you now decide to change that search to the NIL program and you bring in, you know, indie wrestlers or wrestlers from Japan who have this kind of style to them, that's why we get to see what we saw. So to me, I need Kalani and Sol to run it back. I need this to be our next great feud in the women's division. Rivalry, because this needs to go on for years. They need to, you know, keep meeting each other at varying points in their career. We've got it. And that was incredible.
Interesting. The Lani supporter that is Mex. How did you feel watching this match play out?
Yeah, it was truly just something special. We've seen how far, especially, you know, some of us that are older fans, you've seen where women's wrestling once upon a time was. Even in when it, you know, early 90s, when it was kind of getting into some good stuff, you know, you saw like some of the Japanese talents that were in WCW and came over to WWF as well. And then it took a step back or several steps back going into the 2000s, and it became some rubbish nonsense again. And to see where it is now, and again, we talk of the NIL program and this pipeline of we're producing those stars and stuff, like it's absolutely incredible that these women can have these matches. They already said that the women's Money in the Bank was the best of the weekend. And these two are gonna find them. So they're at the top of like this class of people coming through. Roxanne Perez, just on a side note, is in a league of her own.
And I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but
no. I don't think we'll have time to, but let me just say now, Roxanne Perez is in a league of her own when it comes to these NXT women. She's very, very good. And these are like the leaders of the new school, Kalani, Sol Ruka, of this next class coming through. I thought for a very long time that Kalani was going to have this Carmelo Hayes type push. She hasn't quite got Carmelo levels of charisma, which is fine. It may come. Obviously, Carmelo came from, being Christian Casanova, coming from the Indies. He's had that experience before he even arrived at NXT. This is all new to her. In terms of kind of being in front of a crowd and having to obviously in her gymnastics she's done performance, but now having to sell yourself as braggadocious and all that kind of stuff is new. I feel like the pathway before, as I said, that wasn't quite there, because it's like, okay, as a woman she just has to win the NXT Women's Championship, which might take a while, but now with this title, she can definitely carve a lane for herself, use it as a stepping stool to eventually become NXT Women's Champion. I just feel like sometimes in wrestling, it's not, you don't always have to be these kind of large, louder than life characters. There's stock in just being the girl next door, relatable, just gets on, does her stuff as well. Her and Sol Ruka have that going for them, and I just think they just put on a terrific match. I guess the only thing that was like that we didn't get, obviously we speculated last week, will there be a turn, will there be something kind of added on top as season into this match, and we didn't quite get that on the night, but they done some great work in the ring.
I think if it continues over time, and in the way that Gerard said as well, a rivalry or whatever else, we'll get that eventually, probably in a shorter term, than or quicker than expected. I was waiting for it. I was literally waiting for when Kalani's arm was being raised for Sol to hit her in the back of her head, or do something dastardly or whatever else. But I wasn't overly disappointed that it didn't happen. Right. I think there is space for two friends to go at it. We always seem to just want this Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty type of situation where friends turn against each other, and that's just what happens with friends in wrestling. And I get it, and it makes sense. But sometimes let us have just two friends who are very good that just go at it, and at the end of the match they have respect for each other and go their separate ways. Or so and so continues to chase while the other one continues to defend. Like it's cool. We've got the likes of a Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Jasmine Nix, JC Jane, Fallon Henley. They're all the heels at the moment in NXT. They're gonna come after Kalani at some point in some way. It doesn't have to be Sol Ruka. She doesn't have to be another heel. You know what I mean? So it's all good. It's going to be interesting to see who comes for Kalani next, or even where Sol Ruka goes after this as well. I'm definitely in the same place as Gerard as well, in kind of hoping that this can be some type of long-term rivalry. Every now and again we see them go against each other and whatnot. Maybe even we see them team together for a short period of time or something like that. You know what I mean? Their chemistry was clear to be seen, and it is definitely something that's very different. And on the point of this whole revolution as well, of women's wrestling, we talk about those two ladies, Roxanne Perez. I have to say as well, like this girl is
she's ridiculous.
She is.
She's the sauce, bro. She's the sauce, the look, the attitude, the way she just disregarded or the sub story from Lola Vice, and then just took her out the way she did as well. With all the, I was calling it was a pop rocks concert that happened. My God. Her as well, and even outside, we see Mercedes doing her thing as well. Toni Storm doing what she's doing. We're kind of seeing Stephanie Vaquer kind of come through. Apparently, has been offered contracts from AEW and WWE since Forbidden Door. Jordan Grace is doing what Jordan Grace is doing. All the ladies on WWE. Mommy is back.
She's back.
I'm scared. I'm scared. Liv has been doing great work. Everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
Jax. There's so many more to mention. And there is this whole talk now. Like I think people have been asking for it, or the conversation started at like the start of the year. But apparently, I don't know how true it is, but I've seen it quite often now over the last week that there really are kind of talks about women's United States and Intercontinental Championships. I don't know if they're doing both or one that's going to go across two brands or whatever. But then as well, with the addition of what's her name? She came back just yesterday with Shayna Baszler and
Sonya
Deville.
Sonya. Yeah.
You've now added even more people. Like, it can work.
Yeah.
Even if they throw a mid card on both shows, it can work.
Yeah.
With the amount of women that are doing their thing, it's crazy. It's crazy. Question: I don't know if this is true or not. Tiffany Stratton won Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Is this the first time it hasn't been cashed in on the same day for the women? So
No.
Because
Io didn't cash it in.
Io didn't cash in. Carmella didn't cash in.
Oh, yes. And I think Bayley's was like the next day, if not the same day.
Yeah. Nikki ASH was the next day as well.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Moving on, but we're still sticking with Heatwave. The last thing that we want to talk about, this four-way. This four-way. What? You know what? We've spoken about the Neil program working. We've spoken about people getting another chance, all this kind of stuff, young talent coming through. This match had all of that in one. Mex, just from the outcome alone, what did you think of the outcome before we even go to the actual match itself? What did you think of the actual outcome and how it went down?
Just before I get to that, I'll just add again from the conversation I was having in my group chat the other day. We were speaking about NXT 2.0 and how Vince was very much, I think it came out like he was like 90% have to be nil talent, 10% from the indies. And then as soon as he was out the door, they kind of reshuffled that and said, obviously, it can't be the blind leading the blind, that we need some experience in here. We'll have about 60% nil, 40% from the indies. And this match was a combination of everything. Experience in Sean Spears, experience in Ethan Page, along with his wider experience on the indies, pure indie brilliance from Javon Evans, and then someone that obviously wasn't quite nil program, but someone in Trick Williams that has come through the Performance Center way of doing things. And the mixture of these guys was absolutely brilliant. And it shows why you need experience, and you need the experience of people coming from the indies to kind of bring another aspect to things. Trick Williams losing in that fashion, it was a big shock. And I think, just in terms of creating that moment, it done exactly what it needed to do. The way they done it as well, it looked like Trick was having that moment where he was it in the Iron Survivor match, that last kind of 90 seconds when he just goes on like a Super Saiyan clearing house sort of thing. He was having that moment again, and Sean Spears drags him out of the ring, and the way Sean Spears was holding him, I was thinking, oh, is he in cahoots with Ethan Page? Until like he started kind of holding his head afterwards, like, oh, I stopped Trick Williams, but I didn't realize that happened in the ring. Ethan Page just like falling into the pin. He's a heel. He was quite vocal that I don't need to pin the champion to win this match. I'm still not sure whether this is the way you crown someone if you want to make a big point about them, sort of thing. Like, it wasn't done in like even like a way where Trick could have got a move and then he threw Trick out the ring and then got the pin. Like it was decisive. I don't know if it was like super impactful, if you see what I mean. But it definitely provided a massive shock factor where people in the crowd had some brilliant expressions of like, oh my God, is this it? That's it, sort of thing. Trick stood there just selling the moment brilliantly as well. Ethan Page is NXT champion after 40 days on the job and 4 matches. Like, incredible ascent. And for the tribalists out there, look what WWE are doing with him, and look what AEW missed out on. I'm not part of that. I'm just saying.
Oh boy.
You know, you talk of 40 days, you talk of 4 matches. Gerard, are you all for Ethan Page?
You know, I said, I think it was on WWT Live when we were doing our predictions. I predicted that Ethan Page would become the NXT champion at Heatwave. And for me, it makes sense on a lot of levels. Remember, October the 1st is when NXT moves to the CW. And when you get there, what do you want? Do you want Trick walking in as champion, or perhaps do you want night 1 or night 2 to be the ascension of Trick chasing that title again? I think that's a bigger moment. Plus, I would say this. We saw this with AEW. We're seeing this again with NXT. You really do need an experienced person as your champion, you know, to really help those who are younger make their way. And so for Trick, I certainly enjoyed him as champion, but this move makes a lot of sense to me. There was no way that Ethan Page was going to main event 2 PLEs and not become NXT champion. It makes all the sense in the world to me. But to me, the MVP of that match is Javon Evans. I saw him as Jay Malachi many, many times, you know, put in work, had the pleasure of calling his matches. He shined. And this is clearly the biggest crowd he's ever worked in front of. If there were nerves, we couldn't tell, because he went for broke, and it was amazing to watch. Now, to your point, Mex, about was this an impactful way to win? Absolutely. Here's why. You know, they spent so much time in these multi-man matches, whether it's a triple threat, a fatal 4-way, talking about how the champion only has a 33% or a 25% chance to win. They always talk about you don't have to pin the champion to win, but we rarely see that happen. So to actually see it happen goes, oh, wow, there is the possibility that this can really happen. That has to happen for those points on commentary to actually hold weight with people. So I was totally good with this happening. And it happened by Trick Williams' own hand or knee. Like, that's brilliant to me. I thought it was amazing. Another lesson for Trick Williams to learn. You know, he hasn't been in this kind of match very often. He did show that he's been improving and doing what he needed to do. I don't think he loses anything. He's still the most popular guy in NXT. If anything, they're going to scream, whoop that Trick even louder. You know, the ascension, you know, the road back is going to be a lot of fun for Trick Williams. But this was absolutely the right call. It was the right call. And the way that it happened, him not pinning Trick, even better, makes him still look cowardly, makes Trick be able to say, but you didn't pin me. Like, there's all sorts of elements to this story that works. And then you weave in the Sean Spears piece where, hey, I kept you from becoming champion. And Javon Evans saying, I did all of this stuff. This was masterful. And everybody from that match ended up looking better than when they walked in.
And that's the perfect part of it as well. Everyone walks out looking better. In terms of the outcome itself, I think it's perfect as well, in the sense where it's not something that I would have thought of at all. But I think what it does do is 2 things. I believe on last week's NXT, when they had the contract signing and whatever else, Ethan Page even said to Javon Evans he's going to pin him. And he's done that. But of course, and he can say that, he can shout that from the rooftops because that's what's happened. But at the same time, it was because of Trick. So then Trick's comeback could be, but you didn't actually do it. Like, it was me that you fell back, blah, blah, blah. You didn't actually beat him, all that kind of stuff. And also you haven't beaten me. You didn't pin me. So we've got all of that, and it adds perfectly to Ethan Page's character, adds perfectly to you know, possibly a rematch between the two, with him and Trick. like we said, Javon Evans was amazing. So, you know, we're still kind of going to have him in the forefront of our minds. Sean Spears did his thing. He could probably turn around to Ethan Page and said, I helped you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And ask for a title shot and stuff like that. There are so many things that have come out of it as well. So, you know, it was done perfectly. And again, as we've already said, you know, the different levels of experience and backgrounds and where these guys have come from just worked perfectly for this match. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think we've built, you know, however many weeks we've been asking the question, who could beat Trick Williams? Who is there in NXT? I think we may have actually established 4 guys that are, you know, top contenders for the NXT Championship for a while. Others could crop up. You know, Wesley could probably come up soon. Joe Coffey still for me is in the conversation. And there's a few others, but I think these 4 now have definitely cemented themselves as like top of the card for the NXT Championship. So everyone wins, and I think just Heatwave in general, everyone wins. We're not going to, but you know, people were talking about the Tag Team Championship match as well. That was a massive surprise for me.
Huge surprise.
That match was
huge surprise,
phenomenal, and again added to everyone's story, everyone that was involved. So Heatwave was just phenomenal on so many levels. And also,
then I was gonna say, and then that random 2-second go home shot of Joe Hendry. Like, what? I thought something strange happened, and I was like, wait, and it just left. Like, you're gonna come back to this, you're gonna do, man.
And guess what? It happened on TNA as well.
Did it?
What happened?
That shot.
The same shot. The same
unannounced.
Okay.
For what reason? Yeah, it happened on TNA as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. And of course, Joe Hendry's involved in the 6-way match at Slammiversary for TNA Championship. So,
and he got somehow inserted in an NXT commercial last night on Raw too, and I was like, "Oh, you didn't see that?" They were talking about Tuesday and the fallout from Heatwave, and boom, I was like, "Oh,
yeah, they're doing it, man. They're going for it. They are absolutely going for it.
It's happening.
Wow. Shawn Michaels believes in Joe Hendry.
Yes.
The rise of this guy it's out of nowhere. It's crazy. I don't even completely understand it, but I'm just gonna embrace it because it's not going anywhere. I'm just gonna embrace it. And you know what? And the joke is that's kind of the point I was about to make as well. In terms of the outcome of the World Championship match at Money in the Bank and the NXT Championship. All unexpected. People have kind of like varying opinions in how it happened and the details of it and all the rest of it. One thing I've come to embrace, especially with the Triple H era of WWE right now, is to just allow it to happen, because there always seems to be a bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We talk about this and no, it shouldn't happen like that, but there's a reason why it did. And they already know why. They've already thought about the next 6 months or probably longer and know exactly why they're doing what they're doing and how and the details of it. Just allow it to happen. Just sit back and enjoy the ride and stop talking so much. It's that simple. It's as simple as that. The last thing I want to talk about real quickly, unfortunately, just before Raw went on air yesterday, there was breaking news of Damon Kemp, real name Bobby Stevenson, now not with the WWE. Bobby Stevenson, of course, the younger brother of the Olympic champion Gable Stevenson, who recently was cut from WWE, quite shockingly, but at the same time, not surprisingly. But this one feels like a surprise because as opposed to his brother, who had all this massive expectation and whatnot, didn't quite go the way that WWE wanted to with Gable. But for me, Damon Kemp was a big surprise in a positive way, in a very good way for both fans and trainers and the big heads of NXT. Gerard, how did you feel when you saw this news, and what's the thought process? What do you think the thought process is as to why they've decided to not renew Damien Kemp's contract?
I was shocked. I was very shocked. He's involved in a storyline with Tavion Heights, and this whole no quarter catch crew situation. And, it was interesting to see where that could go. I do think that the no quarter catch crew should just stick with 3 members, because every time they go to 4, somebody ends up leaving. So maybe this is a sign. I was very shocked by this. I thought Damon Kemp was good in the ring. I thought he told a great story. It seemed as though he made a lot of sense with what was going on. So it's shocking to me, very, very surprising. Obviously, the WWE knows things that we don't. And I don't know what areas they may have measured that they may have said this just isn't something to continue. Again, it's one thing when you get fired versus not renewing your contract, and they just chose not to renew it, which I think is completely their option. Very surprising. I'll be very interested to see if he continues in the world of pro wrestling or if he decides to do something else, so we'll see. But I was very, very surprised by that news.
After he tweeted that he's no longer with WWE, I think a few hours later, he put up the date of August. I would imagine that's the date that he's actually, the contract actually ended, and he's free to do whatever he wants to do. Also, as well, with the whole thing, obviously his brother being who his brother is, there has been talk that he was kind of just thrown into the mix in a way to kind of bring Gable into WWE. Mix, what do you think about that part of this scenario? Do you feel as though he's probably now not with WWE because his brother's now not there?
Yeah, it's quite possible. Nepotism and all of that is a real thing. It could have been literally, the icing on the cake for Gable to sign. Well, if you give me a contract, give my brother one as well, sort of thing. And now that they don't have that commitment to his brother, then it's like we don't need this guy anymore, especially if he hasn't kind of kicked on in the trajectory we want. If you remember back to when the Jinder Mahal round of releases happened, some of those releases were quoted that these people have kind of met their ceiling. We don't see them growing as performers at this current time. So it could be that kind of situation where they're thinking as well, like, we are getting in people that come from these kind of backgrounds, depending what they're paying him as well. If he came in on the back of Gable Steveson, it might be like, this might be above or stretching the NXT budget. But it's a weird one because, yeah, he has been featured prominently on TV, and in the ring, he sounds like he's really good. But in the most respectful way possible, I am so invested in Tavion Heights.
All day long.
It's like, okay, sorry, Damon Kemp, but let's crack on. I'm not even dwelling on that. Like, it's like this Tavion Heights, just from the minute that he was in that what's that breakout tournament?
Yes,
I said no. Like, I even feel it's crazy. It's been so long since we've kind of seen him back on TV since after that
Very
tournament.
True. Very true.
Yeah, I think he's got a massive upside. Again, pretty much a like for like switch. Not with the well, he was an Olympian sort of thing, but like, what's his name? Damon Kemp had all the college level accolades, so pretty much like for like. And I just think Tavion's got got natural charisma about him as well. That'll go a long way in the WWE. So it's a shame, but it's just maybe WWE didn't see that kind of value in him much longer.
Yeah, I think it's very much so. What you said in terms of Bobby coming in because Gable was like, well, if I'm going to be here, get my brother in, then maybe I'll sign a contract, or it's possibly part of the agreement that they had. And when you have a Tavion Heights in there with a Damon Kemp who was done way more than anyone expected him to, far exceeded what his brother ended up doing, even though he had higher expectations. You then put a slightly taller, slightly longer hair, slightly more powerful, slightly more
Mhm.
quick, slightly
Mhm.
more charismatic, slightly way more explosive. Tavion Heights next to him, you're like, yeah, I don't think we need you anymore.
Yeah.
As great as he's done, it's kind of like what we've got the next level up right next to us that we're in control of.
Yeah. I was going to say it also may be a scenario where what Damon was doing was good for the 2.0 era, but this era, not so much. Because if you think about, we've been talking about NIL, the level of athletes that are coming in to NXT right now, you know, what he might be doing work for 2.0 in comparison to everybody just developing. But now these folks are on a whole different place. So it does put you in comparison in a different spot.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Tavion Heights does. And you know, I think Mex, you said, you know, about people kind of reaching the ceiling. And as well as Damon Kemp did, it is unfortunate to think that he probably wasn't going to go any further. I couldn't see him kind of being moved to the main roster. And if he was, it would be, you know, as Charlie Dempsey's stooge maybe, or something like that. And, you know what I mean? He wouldn't have had I wouldn't expect him to have any kind of standout singles career where you look at a Tavion Heights and you're like,
right,
oh, of course he can. Even if he's ceiling's mid card, it's going to happen.
Right.
Something's going to happen. He's going to do something. So, it's unfortunate. You know, cuts, releases, and contract not being renewed is not always the greatest thing in the world. But sometimes logical sense is logical sense, and you can't. There is sense to be made. And I hope he does carry on in the world of pro wrestling. But who knows? He might join a NFL team like his brother.
He could.
That happened.
It did happen.
Anyway, our time is up. You have been watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see us every single Tuesday, and also to see when this guy Mex puts out all of his reactions to WWE, AEW, everything else in between. You can also find Mex on the Wrestling's YouTube channel as well, alongside the Mandem with all of their weekly content, as well as their usual podcast, and of course, Wrestling's House Season 3.
Season 3.
Season 3. Wow. You can also find Mex himself on WrestleManiac UK, on WrestleManiac.uk, on Instagram as well. You can also find this guy, Gerard Bonner, on all things Bonafide. You can also find him on his own show, The Faction Show, as well as WWT Live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also find the omnipresent man doing all of his stuff, broadcasting commentary and everything else for Ashe Wrestling, All Caribbean Wrestling, IWE, Southern Honor Wrestling, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, and of course the Nightmare Factory.
Yes.
I got them all.
You got them. You got them.
Find me, Dazzle, in one place, which is Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, and of course, every now and again, when I can be bothered, I check it, but you don't see me. You don't see. I'm a ninja on X. BWA Dazzle. Guys, thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next time.